I'm Bethan Perkins. I'm going to start off by giving you an overview of data and data on the DAFNI platform. So I hope you can see my screen up here, my mouse. Okay, excellent. So I'm going to log in into the platform and you will see that we have data, models, workflows. Click in data, then you get to the DAFNI data catalog. Now I'm logged in as a super user at the moment, so I'm looking at all 966 data sets that there are available on the catalogue. So we can see there's a whole host of sources for this data, some of them more intelligible than others. Part of that is because we're looking at people's private holdings here, but when you look at it as a non-admin user, which I'll show you also in a second, then this is a much smaller list. But the reason for showing you this as a super user is because Simon has recently uploaded some Cranfield-based data onto the platform, and I thought this would be a nice demo of what our data pages look like. So here for this Cranfield data, then we can see there's contact information for Simon, a description of the data here, some location. And if you want to download the data, it's a case of clicking on this link and it will download that data onto your machine over HTTP. So at the moment, all data from the DAFNI platform is provided to the user via HTTP. Let's let that person in. And we have some additional metadata and keywords for a data set. So I will show you now how to create a data set. That's probably the easiest thing to do here. So let me log in as a non-admin user. So the curtain is drawn again now. We're not looking behind the curtain anymore. So as a standard non-admin user, you would see roughly 500 data sets. So that means that those other 400 odd data sets are private to the person which uploaded them. So as non-admin user 1, then we have far fewer sources of data. As I said here, this list is much shorter because we're not looking at people's private holdings. We can filter on the source of the data set. Our largest public data set at the moment is ONS no-miss data. We can filter on subject and on the format of the data as well. So you can use this to narrow down, oh, I know that data set I was looking for had some text in it, so you can use that to narrow down the text. We also have a search. We also support searching for date range as well on your data. So when you add a data set to the platform, then you will be confronted by this page. So this is the first page that you see. The first thing to do is to upload your files. So I'll put in some very simple test files here. So I'm just dragging and dropping these. So these are a very basic text file, a very basic CSV file. These files, it's worth saying here, these files could be anything. So they could be an .cdf file, they could be a PDF. The data which is uploaded in this way is put into object storage. So you can put anything that you want in there at the moment. And at the moment, really any size that you want, but bearing in mind that it's all uploaded over HTTP. So if it's a huge file, then it will go slowly. So once you've added your files in, then you need to add in some metadata. So let's give this a title. Can find it more easily. So the more information, as always, the more information that you put in here, the better to describe your data set. We have a space here for permanent identifier. So if your data set has a DOI, which has been minted externally, then you can add that in. This is on the kind of the longer term path for DAFNI is that we'll be able to mint DOIs ourselves, but that's down the line at the moment. So subject, we're currently using Inspire categories in accordance with EN ISO 19115. So we select our subject. This is used as part of the filtering on the main page. So this is mandatory. You then have some optional theme options that you could do as well. So let's say geographical grid systems and energy resources apply to our farming situation here. Language we need to add in is mandatory, and keywords are also mandatory here. And we also have a space here for standards. So if you have a standard which your data conforms to, then you can add it in here as well. It's not mandatory, but it's a place for you to record that should you wish to. Now we come to dataset coverage. This is very important actually for the this discoverability of your data on the platform. So as I said, the files that a user can upload are any format. And because of that, it's kind of out of scope for us at the moment to be interrogating all of those different formats in order to machine-wise extract the spatial and temporal extent of your data. So we ask users to provide this themselves. And we've made that as easy as possible, I hope. So if we put in Cranfield here, okay, good. Then we're using the GeoNames library catalogue of names, geospatial names. So they have Cranfield Airport in here. And so we can select that and use that here, and the map will update and provide us with a visual cue that we've got the right area there. And then we can provide some temporal coverage to our data. So let's say we've got sensor data for January that we're uploading here in this test data set. So you would add that in. The penultimate section is on ownership of your data outside of DAFNI. We're very aware in DAFNI that we don't want to become just another silo which isn't linked to the rest of the world. So here is, later on down the line, we'll be looking at linking to pre-existing data sets, as well as just having our own personal holdings. But at the moment, the way we're linking through to external providers is through this data ownership section. So let me just put DAFNI here. Okay. If you have a particular person that you want to shout out about who has uploaded this data set, then you can add them in here and provide an ORCID ID for them as well, or similar, a homepage or something like that would be absolutely fine as well, but the two do need to go together. And you can have as many of those as you would like. The date the data set was created here, if you have an update, you're expecting to update this on a regular basis, then you can make a note of that here. If you have a third-party publication, so for example, if your data is already on data.gov or is on the European Open Data Portal, for example, then you could add that in here and that link would be made. And then finally, the final mandatory piece of information is that we have a contact point for your information here. So I'll add that in there. And so there's a real human somewhere that you can email and ask questions about, what's going on with this data set, why are these values nans, for example. Finally, we have licensing and data use. So it's mandatory that we have a license with the data. We suggest CC by 4 as an option, but you can change this for something else if you'd like to. And then if you have any rights that you wish to declare on the data set, then you can add those in here. And then at the end, so that's the end of the metadata. So we support data versioning, and if you've used GitHub or a platform like that, then we use a similar system of commit messages, essentially. So this would be the message that goes with this particular upload of the data. If we were to make other versions of this data set, we could then look back through the version history, and that would be the message that comes with this data set. So finally, read and accept DAFNI terms and conditions. Double check that all your data files are added in correctly at the top here before you finally submit, and then publish the data. This will go quite quickly because we have very small files here, but you do have that reassurance of the loading bar if you've got a big data set there. So we can just pop back and look at what this has created for us. So all of that metadata that we saw on Steve's data sets are added in this way. So everything that you've added into the metadata is then duplicated and reproduced for other users on the dataset detail page. The keywords are in here. The additional metadata that we added in is all there as well. At the top here, we have some information about the open access of the dataset. So about the access level mechanisms for the dataset. So this open access is saying that I have access to this data set. I might also be able to view only. So you can share data sets so that others can only view the metadata, but they can't actually download the files. The license information is here, and these two IDs are minted when the data set is created and reproduced here. So there's a bit of a hint here that the reason we provide this here is for the model usage, which Tom will come to in a minute. So you can copy these IDs here in order to create a model definition file in order to use this data set then in a model. We can at any time come back here, edit the data set, so we can update the files This means when we update the files here, then the new files uploaded here will become the complete data set. So you need to re-upload all files. We can change the metadata, any aspect of that. And then right down at the bottom, you as the creator can either delete a version. If you have many versions of the data, you can delete a single version, or you can delete the entire data set. Deleting the entire data set doesn't remove that data entirely from our systems, but it does remove it entirely from our catalog. So if you, and we don't generally go through our systems to find the old data sets, there are very few of them. So essentially it does delete it from the entire platform, but it does mean that if it was a mistake, we can go back and get it. If that ever changes, then we will definitely make sure that the new data policy is published and that everyone's aware of that change. So if I log in as a second user here, so non-admin user 2, then you'll see that the data set that I've just created now is not available to non-admin user 2. So there is no Cranfield demo. So data that you upload onto the platform is private to you by default. You can share that data in a couple of ways. So here with the Manage Assets area, you can see all your data sets here, and this is the one that we've just created. So here I can manage this data set, and at the moment is shown as not visible. I can set it to be view only, so users can see the metadata but not the data, or I can request that it's made full access. I can also share this data in a specific group. So making it full access means that everyone could see it. So non-admin, any user would be able to see that data on the platform. But I can also share it in a group. So here I've got a demo group. The groups are very, very easy to create, I should have said. Sorry, to create a group, you just click here, add in a group name and description, and you'll have a new group. And then in your group, you add users. So I've got non-admin user 2 here. And then so this is a group between these two non-admin users, and to share that data, I literally put in add data, test data set for Cranfield demo. Let's give non-admin 2 lots of permissions on that data. So that's now added in. And then if we go back to the non-admin 2 login here, then we should see that now that data is available to them through the catalog. So that is a brief tour of data on DAFNI, and I'll pass over to Tom to talk about how you use this data in workflows and models.